December 4th, 1993. A strip of straight, empty road outside Christchurch, New Zealand. A single motorcycle on the line, stopwatch ready. The bike makes a flying mile pass, 188 miles per hour. By the end of the afternoon, it has set 4 FIM world speed records in the 1000cc class. The bike didn't come from Honda, it didn't come from Ducati, it didn't come from any factory you have ever heard of. It came from a shed in the suburb of Addington, New Zealand, built by a 43-year-old dyslexic property developer named John Britten and a small crew of volunteer friends. 18 months later, John Britten was dead. He was 45, and most of the world had not yet finished understanding what he had done. So how does a man in a backyard workshop with a small crew of volunteer friends and no factory behind him build the fastest 1000cc motorcycle on Earth and then almost disappear from the global conversation about who moves motorcycle engineering forward? To understand how absurd that sentence is, you have to rewind to the early 1990s Superbike era. In 1993, the factory race motorcycle was a corporate object. Ducati was running its 916 program with engineers seconded from Cagiva. Honda was campaigning the RVF series with a budget that ran into the tens of millions of US dollars per season. Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki were each spending whatever it took to keep their works machines on the podium at Daytona, at Suzuka, at the Isle of Man. The technologies that defined a fast motorcycle in 1993 were factory technologies. Carbon fiber composites were just beginning to enter production motorcycling, and only at the racing edges. Data logging, the recording of running parameters from the engine and chassis during a race lap, was something you needed a wind tunnel and a software department to do. Frameless designs, where the engine itself acts as a stressed structural member of the chassis, had been tried in the past, but they were widely considered a Vincent-era curiosity that had no place in a modern race bike. To build a 1000cc motorcycle that could beat factory teams, the rules of the era were clear. You needed an engineering department, you needed a supply chain, you needed a factory. John Britten had none of those things. What he had was a garage workshop on Matai Street in Christchurch, a small group of mates from the local engineering community, and his own personal money from the family property development business. He started building the V1000 anyway. There are 5 separate reasons John Britten should not have been able to do what he did. He answered all 5 of them from that workshop on Matai Street. The first was money. Britten did not have a sponsor, he did not have a government grant, he did not have a manufacturer behind him. The Britten Motorcycle Company, founded in 1992, was financed almost entirely from John's personal share of the family property business. According to the Britten Museum's founding documentation, this was, in his own team's words, a shoestring budget, the kind of money that gets you a small workshop and second-hand machine tools, not the kind of money that gets you a racing program. A factory campaign in 1993 could spend more on tire testing in a single Daytona week than Britten spent on the entire V1000 program in a year. He had nothing to compete with. He competed anyway. The second was the team. There were no factory engineers in Britten's workshop, no PhDs poached from Honda, no specialists flown in from Bologna. Mike Perro, the 6-time New Zealand road racing champion, now funding the Britten Museum, has documented the core crew by name. Rob Selby, Bob Brookland, Murray Aitken, Mike Brosnan, Alan Wiley. Mates from Christchurch. Most of them still live there. They were craftsmen and engineers and welders who showed up at the Matai Street workshop because they wanted to be part of what John was doing. They were not paid like a factory team. They built a factory team's machine anyway. The third was a disability. John Britten was dyslexic.
He left St. Andrews College in 1968, and the path into mechanical engineering for someone who struggled with reading in 1968 New Zealand was not a path you would describe as wide open. He earned his New Zealand Certificate in Engineering through night classes at Christchurch Polytechnic. Mike Pero has called John's dyslexia, in his own words, a gift that enabled him to define what was possible in engineering. He did not study the way his peers studied. He drew, he sketched, he built. The V1000 was designed, in Britten's own description to friends, from first principles, not from a textbook. The fourth was the geography. Christchurch is roughly 13,000 kilometers from the European supply network that the rest of the motorcycle world relies on. Every component Britten could not make himself, he had to import on a 3-week wait. The closest serious racetrack circuit was hours away. If a part broke on the dyno on Tuesday, he could not call Bologna and have a new one Wednesday. He had to make a new one. So that is what he did. The V1000's hand-cast aluminum engine cases, the carbon and Kevlar composite wheels, the titanium connecting rods, even the bodywork, painted in the pink and blue livery that would later become the bike's signature, all of it made on Matai Street. The fifth was the technology gap. By the early 1990s, the gap between what production motorcycling could do and what John Britten was attempting was, in engineering terms, enormous. The V1000 was a frameless motorcycle. There is no traditional perimeter frame. The 999cc 60-degree V-twin engine itself acts as the primary stressed structural member of the chassis. The front suspension is not a telescopic fork. It's a double wishbone girder system, sometimes called Hossack style. The rear radiator sits under the seat, ducted forward and exhausted at the rear to reduce drag and shift weight forward. The bodywork, the girder, the swing arm, the wheels, all of it is fabricated in carbon and Kevlar composites at a time when this material was barely understood in motorcycle racing. And on top of all of that, the V1000 carried an early programmable engine management system with onboard data logging. According to engineering archives at HandWiki and the Britten Motorcycle Company, the V1000 was one of the first race bikes in the world to log engine data this way.
Each one of those 5 obstacles, on its own, was enough to stop a privateer engineering project. Britten faced all 5 at once, and his motorcycle weighed 138 kilograms dry, produced 166 horsepower at 11,800 RPM, and was about to embarrass every factory rider on the eastern seaboard. But here is what the popular narrative gets wrong. If you have ever read a short article on John Britten, the framing is almost always the same: a scrappy underdog, a clever Kiwi amateur, a one-off curiosity from the bottom of the world. The story is told as if Britten got lucky once and the world moved on. The race record refuses that story. In 1992, the V1000 won the Dutch round of the Battle of the Twins Championship at Assen, beating the factory Ducati program in its own backyard. On December 4, 1993, with rider John White, the V1000 set 4 FIM world speed records on a Canterbury road, including a flying mile at 302.705 kilometers per hour, 188.092 miles per hour. In March 1994, with New Zealand rider Andrew Stroud, the V1000 won the Battle of the Twins race at Daytona International Speedway and recorded a top speed of 189 miles per hour. According to Motorcycle News, that was the fastest top speed ever recorded by a motorcycle at Daytona at that time. Stroud went on to win the inaugural World Bears Championship in August 1995, with Britten teammate Stephen Briggs taking second. And Stroud would win the Battle of the Twins at Daytona 4 years in a row: 1994, 1995, 1996, 1997. That is not the record of a clever amateur.
That is the record of a giant killer. It came with a real cost. In 1994, at the Isle of Man TT, British road racer Mark Farmer was killed in a practice high-side under acceleration at the fast bend known as Black Dub while riding a Briton. The subsequent inquest confirmed the crash was not caused by bike failure. It was a horror nonetheless, and it followed the team through the rest of 1994. The factories noticed. The journalists noticed. Even within New Zealand, the story was beginning to leak out into the international press as something larger than a local hero piece. The motorsport world was, slowly, waking up to the fact that a man in a shed had built the most innovative motorcycle race team of the 1990s. And then, the man in the shed got sick. On September 5, 1995, in Christchurch, John Britten died of inoperable malignant melanoma. He was 45 years old. According to the obituary published by Christchurch City Libraries, his illness was short. The end came less than 2 years after he set the 4 FIM world records on that strip of Canterbury Road. 4 days later, the Christchurch Cathedral was overflowing. According to records held by the Britten Motorcycle Company, more than 1,000 mourners filled the church and spilled into Cathedral Square, listening to the service through loudspeakers in the cold spring afternoon. Anglican minister Louise Deans, a family friend, led the service. Andrew Stroud won the inaugural World Bears Championship a few weeks before John died. According to Britten biographer Tim Hanna, John heard about the title from his bed. So what is the verdict? The temptation is to call this a tragic story of unfinished promise, to say Britten lost, but the data refuses that ending. The 4 FIM world speed records are certified. The 1994 Daytona victory is in the books. The 1995 World Bears Championship is in the books. Andrew Stroud's 4-year Daytona streak is in the books. Of the 10 V1000s ever built, several are now valued at over 2 million New Zealand dollars each. One sits on permanent display at the Museum of New Zealand Te Papa Tongarewa in Wellington. A John Britten museum funded by 6-time New Zealand road racing champion Mike Pero is being built in Christchurch. John Britten did not lose. He won. The world simply arrived at the conclusion too late. There is a workshop on a quiet street in Christchurch where the fastest 1,000cc motorcycle on Earth was built by a man who never quite lived to watch the rest of motorcycling catch up. The man is gone. The bikes still win. If this changed how you think about who actually moves engineering forward in motorcycling, subscribe to the channel. We dig into the people, the engineering, and the unfinished stories behind the bikes that changed the sport every single week.